Welcome to video number 4, Reading Behavior, Part 2. Take a moment and read these quotes to yourself. Readers have a sense of authorship, which they use to enhance text comprehension and interpretation. Writers think about readers while writing. Writers can produce better text when they consider readers' needs, and it is possible to enhance writing quality by increasing writers' awareness of readers. Voice is more than loudness at the right time. It is also a character, quality, or identity that readers attribute to the text, and by the extension to the writer of the text. For our next writing opportunity, we are going to reflect on the quotes from the last slide. How do these quotes relate to you and your classroom? How do you incorporate aspects of these into your instruction? Pause the recording here. Go to your note catcher under Writing Opportunity number 3 to record your response.
As we discussed before, we need to make time to practice writing. Audience awareness is a behavior that we need to teach, model, and practice. Research highlights the positive impacts of audience awareness on the quality of writing. Ultimately, writers can produce better texts when they consider their readers' needs. On the other hand, the research does speak to the impact that author awareness has on the reader. The findings further show that students will read more critically when a sense of authorship can be heightened, which facilitates making meaning for themselves. Audience awareness can be practiced through many different strategies, including assigned audiences, reflective prompts, and having students work in pairs to identify comprehension problems. The strategy we will be exploring and practicing is the use of reflective prompts. The why. The use of reflective prompts allows the reader to track their learning and encourages critical thinking. Research has shown that reflecting through guided prompts directly affects the writing process, specifically the revision process, impacting the quality of writing. Using a series of prompts, writers revise their original piece of writing, ultimately improving the quality. According to the research of Jutz, Schuldt-Lobert, and Braun, reflective prompts that followed a certain sequence positively affected the revision process. In the revision process, the first prompt they have to consider is the intention of their message, or what they plan to communicate. For the second prompt, they need to keep the audience in mind. They need to formulate their message in a manner appropriate to their audience, and that allows their audience to grasp the intended message. And for the third prompt, they use the information from the first two prompts to make a plan for revision. Then they can begin revising their initial text representation. So let's focus on a behavior or strategy that will help develop audience awareness and the revision process. We will use your reflection from Writing Opportunity number 3, found in your note catcher, to practice this strategy. Take a moment and reread your reflection. The first prompt that we will consider is surrounding intention. Does your response clearly communicate what you wanted it to? How does it meet the intent of your original message? Pause the recording here and record your response in your note catcher. Continuing to use your response to writing opportunity number 3, found in your note catcher, let's consider a potential audience. We are going to identify your audience as your colleagues. What insight about audience awareness, using the quotes and reflections, do you want to share with them? Let's consider that the audience of your first response was yourself. Now let's change it to your fellow colleagues. For reflective prompt number 2, formulate your message in a manner appropriate to your audience or your fellow colleagues. Is your audience now able to grasp your message? Pause the recording here and record your response in the note catcher. Continuing to use your response to writing opportunity number 3, let's reflect on your final text representation. What revisions were needed? To further reflect, let's dive into the reflective prompt number 3. What were the differences between the responses when you became aware of your intended audience? And what changes needed to be made? Pause the recording here and record your response in your note catcher. Implications for instruction. So what are students going to need to be able to do in order to respond to reflective prompts as a means to enhance the revision process? First, observe a think aloud that models how to use prompts to reflect during reading, how to use their revisions within their own responses, recognizing audience needs, and adding clarity to the intended message. And second, model the use of the sentence combining strategy that we learned about earlier in the session to add more varied and complex sentences to enhance their writing style.